Hello there, thank you for joining us. Today I'm taking a look at a Napa Valley classic. This is Caymus Vineyards 2020 Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon. So this is their standard bottling as opposed to the special selection, which is a more expensive wine. But this was the wine I actually wanted to look at because on the Wine Searcher website we count the number of completed searches every year, and actually from the Napa Valley this is the third most searched for wine that we have, and the two wines that come ahead of it are Opus One and Screaming Eagle. So those are wines that I think Opus One is 5 times more expensive than the Caymus, and Screaming Eagle is 50 times more expensive. So this is it's not a cheap wine, but it's a, by comparison, it's a value option. It's a popular premium Napa red. So something we should look at. Caymus has a wonderful history. They have about 60 acres of vines in Rutherford, right in the sort of the heart of the Napa Valley. And in fact, the name Caymus comes from the name of the land grant that was given, the Mexican land grant that was given to George Yount when he settled here in 1836. So right at the sort of the genesis of grape growing in the Napa Valley, the estate are very much concentrated on Cabernet Sauvignon. They grow a little bit of Zinfandel, but in their Napa Valley property, they're Cabernet specialists. The family, the Wagner family, came to Napa in 1906 as a result of the earthquake in San Francisco. And once they bought the property here, they immediately started growing vines, although they didn't actually make any wine until their first vintage of wine was 1972, when Caymus Vineyards was set up as an entity. So previously the grapes had been sold for bulk wine and the like. And I suppose during the period, actually, in the intervening period, you've actually had prohibition as well, which adds some difficulties. As far as this wine is concerned, it is it's not simply a Rutherford wine, although I should imagine that Rutherford fruit lies at the heart of it. They do say that this particular wine is a combination of 8 of the 16 sub-regions from within the Napa, and they say that those sub-regions range from Coombsville in the south, where it's cooler, up to Calistoga in the north, where it's warmer. And the other remark they make is that it's a combination of the sort of the opulent, rich valley floor fruit and some of the mountain vineyards, places like Howell Mountain, Spring Mountain, presumably, which will provide more sort of freshness and backbone in terms of tannic structure to the wine. So this is a Napa wine rather than a Rutherford wine particularly. I don't know a lot about how the wine is made. I've got details of the special selection, which is entirely raised in new French oak barrels, spends 18 months there. So we could, 90% French oak, new French oak for the special selection. So we'd assume that this probably has somewhere between about 50 and 90% new oak, and probably ages for about a year to 18 months in barrel, but that's supposition on my part. So let's have a look at the wine, shall we? First thing to say, the colour, it's quite a dark colour, but it's not particularly deep. I can see the stem of the glass through there. There's a lovely vibrancy actually to the sort of youthful vibrancy to the colour, which is a sort of a red to red purple. And certainly when I swirl the wine, it very readily forms tears on the side of the glass. So that implies the vinosity there. It's 14.4% alcohol according to the label, so that's hardly surprising, and I'm expecting it to be tannic. So you would expect those attributes. So let's have a look at the aromas, shall we? Smelling the wine, there's a real initial top note of rich but quite spicy raspberry initially. So there's this sort of lifted, fresh red fruit, but that's supported by notes of sort of sweet vanilla, sweet spice, cinnamon, that sort of all beautifully harmoniously combined. But and then there's greater depth, sort of going through to notes of sort of, say, licoricey, maybe red licorice, slightly lifted aromas. Possibly even just sort of notes of coffee at the end there, sort of taking some of the sort of primary note out of the fruit, adding a bit of complexity. So let's have a taste. Gosh, that's rich and ripe and beautifully warming at the front palate. Again, those lifted red fruit notes and lovely sort of clean sweet spice. Vanilla notes the form, I guess, from the oak, but it's very well integrated. The wine is, I suppose, medium to full-bodied. It's not an absolute blockbuster. But the tannins are, there's a slight cedriness to the tannin actually, but in general they're quite velvety, and as they resolve they become more sort of silky and almost move into a sort of a chocolatey cocoa note, where the chocolatey cocoa sort of flavours come through. There's a sort of a licoricey depth to the core of the wine. The warming alcohol I see more at the front, on the attack, towards the finish, where normally alcohol might sort of smother the fruit on the finish. I'm not seeing that. There, the fruit's opened up. It's got its richness, and the attractive red fruit is showing again. Maybe it's more mulberry this time. The acidity doesn't seem particularly high. I'm not sort of noticeably mouth-watering, but there's a fresh juiciness to the fruit that would imply that it's pretty reasonable. The flavours are lasting beautifully well. The structure isn't astringent. It's very supple. As I say, it's that sort of velvety. There's almost a sort of a cocoa butter note to the flavours and texture. Just so smooth. As I say, the flavours are lasting really nicely. So in terms of will this wine age, I'm sure it will. Its concentration, alcohol of course will help it age. Passable acidity. I should imagine that this wine would very happily age for 10 to 15 years. But I ask the question, why do you need to? Because it's incredibly, its primary fruit is making it incredibly attractive now. It's got complexity from the beautiful interaction of oak and that sort of opulent ripe fruit. Yeah, it's not the most structured wine in the world, but it's got structure there. There was a little bit of grip in the mid palate that would make that work with food quite nicely. So yes, thank you for watching. That's Caymus Napa Valley Cab Sauv from 2020, and I think showing why this is such a popular wine. So if you've enjoyed the video, do feel free to like and do watch us again. Thanks for joining us. Bye now.